What's a small act of kindness you were once shown that you'll never forget? Neighbors asked to borrow my truck. Told them I could not trust my truck because the tires were bad. Next day Mr. Neighbor called and said he was getting new tires for his Suburban and I could have his old ones. Told me to just show up at this certain tire shop and they would put them on. Get to tire shop and they put on brand new Goodyear tires. I asked what happened to the old tires I was supposed to receive. Shop owner said the old tires was just a story to get me in the shop. Mr. Neighbor bought me a full set of new tires instead of the old tires he said I could have. I guess they can borrow the truck anytime after that. D. Riding my bike on a long trip through Canada. With about 50 miles to go, I had a major mechanical failure. Stuck on the side of the road in a foreign country. Within 5 minutes at least 10 cars had stopped to check on me. One guy loaded my bike in the back of his truck and drove me 30 miles to the border where I could catch a ferry back to the US. Amazing kindness and generosity toward a stranger. He just asked that I pay it forward, and to date I've helped 5 cyclists who were broken down in honor of that promise. Canadians are so nice. They don't want anything in return. Just pay it forward. I was given access to a shower and a hot meal after being homeless for 9 months. I was 9 years old, waiting for the school bus in Wisconsin winter. I had a thin coat, no hat or gloves. A woman driving past saw me and stopped, giving me a blanket from the back of her car. It was a long skinny one, so she wrapped it around my head and shoulders like a big scarf. I remember thanking her, but being confused. I told her I didn't know how I would give it back when I was done borrowing it. She hugged me and said not to worry. I still have that blanket. Alternator died while I was driving home from university. Engine died as I exited the freeway in the middle of the night in a not so pleasant part of town in the days before cell phones. As I'm pushing my car out of the intersection, a guy in a truck comes up and offers to push my car to my neighborhood a good 3 miles away. He does so, and I'm pulling into my neighborhood. He simply gives a wave and drives off into the night. I never even had a chance to thank him. Ones like this always get me a little more, where the person is very obviously just doing it to be a good person. So much so they don't even let you say thanks. When I was young, 19, I lost my wallet and someone used my license to rack up tickets. It was pretty obvious once courts looked at the location of the tickets and what vehicle was used. The signature, that it wasn't me. I had to go to around 3 courts clearing it up. The third judge was the only one with a problem. He said I had failures to appear since the tickets were ignored. I explained what was happening and how I've been dealing with this, and I came in as soon as I was made aware of the issue. He wanted to put me in jail because he didn't trust I'd be back. He wouldn't look at my paperwork because it was an arraignment. He would only look at it during the trial date. I didn't know what to do, but I had the name of the public defender memorized. I asked if I could talk with her first. He called her in and said, "This young man seems to know you." I quickly explained what was happening and showed her my evidence. She told the judge that if he didn't release me to come back, she'd pay my bail out of her own pocket. He scorned me but released me. I just had to return the next month during the trial date. I was 19 then. 39 now. I took my sister who's in a wheelchair to the cinema for the first time on my own. At the end, I realized I couldn't undo the brakes and was blocking everyone. I felt like crying because I thought everyone was pissed at me. But some nice lady helped me, then took me and my sister out. She said she once had a son who needed a wheelchair. This was long ago, but I'll never forget. I was out of a job at a time that I had to support my mother. Finally landed one, but I had to walk back and forth, and I didn't have any shoes that would hold up on the walk or the work. Went to FB and mom asked around for some hand-me-downs we could buy from someone. A day later a very kind man showed up with a brand new pair of really nice shoes he had just gone out and bought for me. He left before I could even get any money for him. I cried. My gym teacher purchased me lunch in 3rd grade after I dropped mine. I'm 34 years old and still remember this. I recorded a homemade album with my garage band in high school and handed out a few CDs. A few weeks later my English teacher approached me with 5 pages of notes on what he liked and what I could improve on. He apparently got the CD from someone at the high school and listened to it all the way through. It was over an hour long. He didn't know I was the singer and guitar player until he asked the person who gave him the CD. He said that if I ever got a shot in a studio, I would create something amazing. Thank you to all the teachers out there who believe in their students. It makes all the difference to some of us. During the single most difficult time of my life, a stranger on Reddit gifted me $500. To me, it was a fortune. I received it while at work and just broke down. It started the change of my life, and a few months later I was able to move, met my now fiancé, had my son, and found my job. I still message them once in a while to update them on my life and continue to thank them for their generosity, but I think they abandoned their account years ago. Edit. You all have inspired me to write them another message. It's been a while. And a shout out to everyone who has or wants to do something similar. I hope you understand how earth-shattering, in the best way possible, those kind of gifts can be. At work I was complaining about heartburn once. I was still pretty new to the job, didn't really have any work friends, felt like an outsider. My life outside of work was pretty shit as well. The bartender on shift overheard me and ran to a nearby coffee shop to get me a chocolate milk. It definitely made the heartburn go away, but it was such a needlessly kind act. I don't think I'll ever forget it. 2 years later we are still friends, and she is definitely one of the kindest people I've ever met. I literally coasted into a gas station out of gas on my motorcycle, then realized I didn't have my wallet. Some lady saw me patting all my pockets and that I was upset and offered to fill up my tank. I only let her put $5 in, which on a bike is a lot, but it meant so much to me. 1. In middle school, my softball team lost a match. A girl from the other team walked over to me and handed me a blue pouch. At first, I couldn't open it, so I said, "Thank you," and walked with my parents to my car. After examining it for a while, I was able to open it and pull out this really cute softball necklace. I still have it to this day. 2. I had to get a spinal fusion surgery for my scoliosis. During my week-long recovery, one of the nurses asked me what my favorite candy was out of the blue. I told her, chocolate. During her next shift, she walked in with a huge tin full of chocolate and a cute stuffed sloth. I still have the sloth. She also put up balloons and a happy birthday sign for my sister who was visiting me. 3. Another nurse cried when I left and hugged me. I was literally astounded by their kindness towards me. I felt really bad that they had to take care of me all the time during my stay, but they really made me feel welcome. Also, my surgery was successful and I'm basically pain-free. I have 2 moments that I'll never forget. When I was younger, my mum was depressed and we had very little money. It was either eating or eating a lot. An old lady around the corner from us would invite us over for tea sometimes, or breakfast before school. She knitted me, my baby sister and my mum cardigans, socks and a blanket each one winter when it was really bad. I was at a terrible time of my life at 17. Had a bad day at work, and then my train home was 1 hour plus late. I just started crying at the train station and was really wondering if it was all worth it. A woman just held me for a bit while I cried. She was a complete stranger. I've never seen her since, but I needed her, I guess. I think she saved my life that day. I was bullied a lot as a kid. There were 3 boys in the neighborhood who were always really mean to me. Well, there was a new kid who had just moved in, like half the size of the neighbor boys, and he already had a target on his back because he was very flamboyant. Well, one day the boys were picking on me and this kid. It was the first time anyone ever stood up for me, and man, he got pissed. He got his ass kicked. I felt terrible, but he was super happy about it afterwards. I wish I remembered his last name. I hope he has an amazing life. Choking to death on a roadside and a nice guy stopped and did the Heimlich on me. Thanks bro. Edit. More details for those asking. Leaving a park with my son. put a hard candy in my mouth. Said something to my son. Candy slipped down my throat. Immediately knew I was ducked. Couldn't get air. Threw the car in park. Left my son wondering WTF. Started flagging down people on street. Guy and his girl stopped. Shit started to go dark. Made universal choking sign. Guy understood. I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. So I guided his hands to correct position. After 4 or so heaves the candy popped out. I gave him a big hug and we went our ways. Scariest moment of my life. Not dying per se, but dying in front of my son. I was around 6 years old and went out to ride my bike. My parents were behind me walking, and I was going ahead and coming back to them every 5 to 10 minutes, but I forgot to turn around and realized I'm lost. So I started crying after some unsuccessful attempts to find them. One kind man probably in his 60s stopped and asked me multiple questions about what happened and who were my parents. It turned out that he knew my grandpa. He contacted him, got my parents' numbers and called them. They decided where to meet, and after 20 minutes we were there. I was so happy and relived and thanked the old man. He lives in the block of flats as my grandpa and I sometimes help him by carrying the groceries or fixing something in his house. I would never forget this act because things could have gone wrong for me. I was bullied in elementary school and an older boy defended me. He became my first crush and I still remember him. As a boy, I developed rheumatic fever and had to stay home for months to work through it and recover. When the lady next door found out how sick I was, she made a big pot of homemade chicken soup. It was delicious and full of healthy, fresh ingredients. To this day, Mom believes that it was this woman's kindness and love she put into her soup making that helped me recover faster. I was at a concert and a couple behind me gave me a VIP pass to get a picture with the artist because their friend couldn't come. Never will forget it. When I was at school, I helped a girl out when she was having a meltdown in the bathroom. A few weeks later she pretended to be my friend who had been waiting to meet me when I was being followed home by 2 guys. We never saw each other outside of those 2 occasions, but I still think about her and hope she's doing okay somewhere out there. I broke my foot and was trying to limp my way across campus with crutches in the pouring rain. Someone ran over with their umbrella and walked across campus with me so I wouldn't get rained on. The time my car broke down in the middle of the night and my phone died and I didn't know what to do, a random stranger pulled over and told me we all need a little help sometimes, and I'll never forget her words as she helped me jumpstart my car. I transferred in the middle of 1st grade to a school that did ice cream Fridays where you'd pay like 50 or 75 for whatever kind, and then you'd watch an educational video in the classroom. I was unaware of this when the first Friday rolled around, so I didn't have any change and neither did the kid next to me. Normally there would be a few who didn't get ice cream, but this day we were the only 2. So the teacher called the both of us aside and gave us each the change required to have our ice cream. I think the biggest thing was that she didn't do it in front of the other kids, so it looked like we had brought the money all along. It was incredibly kind of her. She was a wonderful teacher outside of that as well. TLDR, I and another student didn't have money for ice cream the day everyone else did. The teacher bought us ice cream so we wouldn't be left out. Edit. I'm going to try to reach out to the school to find the teacher and send her an email, if possible, as a lot of you suggested. Open bracket colon. So once in high school, I ate at a Mexican restaurant and unknowingly threw away my car keys on my tray. When I was done eating, I went and asked a worker if he had cleared them off the table, and he said no, but that he had just taken the trash out to the dumpster. I remember going outside and calling my dad to ask if there was a spare, and he told me no. So I went back inside feeling humiliated and about to ask if I could look through the dumpster, only to see that this man had already dug through the dumpster on my behalf and ended up finding my keys for me. He just went above and beyond, and to this day I'm so grateful for his help. I was around 19 years old in my first year of community college. My dad has lost his job and my mom was supported my entire family. We were struggling for a while. I remember being in my night class one day starving. I figured there'd be no dinner, so I told myself I'll go straight to bed when I get home and not think about being hungry. When I got home after class, there was a giant box of Costco pizza on the kitchen counter. Apparently one of our neighbors had bought it for us because my dad fixed a part of her fence a few months back. I think it stuck with me because A, I was so ducking hungry, and B, the chances of her bringing food that night of all nights was insane to me. It might sound so stupid, but I'll never forget it. Edit. Holy shit. Thanks to everyone who commented with your own similar stories and wished me well. I was not expecting this, and I appreciate all the kind words. I'm doing well now. Hope you all are too. Love to all. After my dad passed away, my depression kicked into overdrive. I went to the doctor and got a prescription for antidepressants. While I was picking up my prescription, I started crying. When I apologized to the pharmacist for crying like a child, the pharmacist said, "You don't have to apologize. You recognize you have a problem and you are trying to fix it. That is a brave thing." It changed my perspective on treating my mental illness. I missed my train to go home for Christmas from uni due to a crash near the station. I was completely broke and knew I wouldn't be able to afford another ticket. Life just got on top of me, knowing I'd have to spend Christmas alone in my shitty student house and not being about to see my granddad, who was in rapidly declining health. I was bawling my eyes out on the platform when a janitor appeared out of a hidden stock room under a stairwell and brought me some tissues. He found out why I was so upset and said, "Leave it to me." Took me to the customer service desk and got them to reissue me a ticket for the next train home. I was so thankful I started bawling again, and he went on his way. Then just before I was about to get my train, he found me on the platform and gave me some snacks and a can of Coke, and it's just the nicest thing anyone's ever done for it. I was working in a medical field, and after the course of a few days, I worked with 4 members of this family. Starting with the dad, who was just an awesome human. Then the next day he came in with his son. Later that afternoon, he came back in with his son again for his daughter's apt. I genuinely fell in love with this family more and more after each member I met. The father, son, daughter attended the mother's appointment with her the next day. At this point, I was considering proposing to the son, as I wanted to be a part of this amazing, hilarious, loving family. I informed them I regretted I wouldn't be there when they came back in 2 weeks, as I was moving on to a different position. They came back an hour later with a nothing but cake, with the sweetest card and an inside joke written on the outside of the cake box. It made me cry. My family life has always sucked, and meeting them was just so beautiful and healing. Edit. Thank you kindly for the award. I was in New York City taking a lunch break at a job I absolutely hated. I was sitting eating alone at a McD's, and after about 15 minutes this man in his 40s or 50s, I'm a 28 years old male at the time, goes up to me and says something like, "Hey man, you look really sad. Things will get better," and just shook my hand. Takes a lot for one adult man to offer that up to another strange man. Really cheered me up. Edit. Wow. Woke up to this blowing up. Most upvoted comment yet, and thanks for the golden awards. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.